Okay, here we go. Transition. All right. Okay. I got a little crazy there because I could not. My camera was lagging hard, so I had to shut it down and get it started before we get started here. Okay. We're in Psalm 64, a psalm of David. Hear my voice, O God, in my prayer. Preserve my life from fear of the enemy. Hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity, who whet their tongue like a sword, and bend their bows to shoot their arrows, even bitter words, that they may shoot in secret at the perfect. Suddenly do they shoot at him, and fear not. They encourage themselves in an evil matter. They commune of laying snares privily. They say, who shall see them? They search out iniquities. They accomplish a diligent search. Both the inward thought of every one of them and the heart is deep. But God shall shoot at them with an arrow. Suddenly shall they be wounded. So shall they make their own tongue to fall upon themselves. All that see them shall flee away. And all men shall fear and shall declare the work of God, for they shall wisely consider of his doing. I can't believe I pulled that sentence off. The righteous shall be glad in the Lord, and shall trust in him. And all the upright in heart shall glory. To the chief musician, and I must have started typing H. Let me sip of coffee. All right. Fairly straightforward, full of interesting things we could talk about. You know, I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, am I just looking for things to talk about, or am I just explaining the scriptures? Well, there's a little bit of both of that, because part of understanding it is how do we apply what we hear to our lives, and it doesn't always match up perfectly. Meaning, you know, we look at David's situation. Hold on a second, I gotta clear my nose. Sorry, I shouldn't announce what I'm doing. All right. So, you know, he is a leader surrounded by enemies. You know, a leader surrounded by enemies. And as I'm listening to this, I'm like, yeah, this is it's interesting. There's this insurrection of words. Now, it's not just words. All right, but they use words against him. Or again, he puts it generally, not of himself so much, but as the way that people are. And a lot of times he'll take his psalm, and it comes from his own experience, but he's applying it more generally. And sometimes when I talk about things that I've experienced, I'm really doing the same thing. I'm trying to take an experience and to help myself understand the general truth. You know, to take from those examples lessons that can be, you know, learned for today. So, you know, though we often are not in the same position of leadership, some of the principles and stuff are very similar. Hear my voice, O God, in my prayer. When I pray, hear my voice. You know, it's just a very, you know, in the Psalms, they open them, when they talk about things, they open it elegantly. And, you know, we begin to address God. So it's like, you know, well, hear my voice, O God, in my prayer. I mean, I'm praying to you, so hear me. You know, because let me just so you know, I'm definitely talking to you. I'm not just musing. I'm not just wishing. I send my plea up to God himself. And my quest is preserve my life from fear of the enemy. Again, because a lot of this is talking about words. There is violence in the words, but the words themselves are the subject of the psalm. And so, preserve my life. Interesting, before it was they seek my soul. I wonder if it's life or soul. Because sometimes it's the same word in Hebrew. I want to know. Oops. My screen just went black for a second, so there we go. We're back. Sometimes I worry about my poor old video card. What's wrong with you? Oh, it might, I don't know. Maybe it gets hot. This is probably I don't have a very high-end video card, so this is probably a lot of work for my poor little video card. Okay. Life. What is it? And it is K. So that is definitely not the word for soul. What is it? Hey. And I'm not kidding. That's the letter that makes that noise. And you can see here when they tell you how to pronounce it, they say phonetic spelling Hey. Now the Hey, I'm probably overemphasizing that part of it. I've just never had a problem making that noise. I can make all those noises. I actually do very good accents. I can learn them. I do very good German, do a very good Spanish. If you give me something to read. Let's see. Age, alive. Oh, okay. So here's the Strong's definition, which is one I always kind of prefer to look at. Alive, hence raw, flesh, fresh, plant water. These are all the different ways it gets used, because this is a big word. Live. So it is the idea of like a living thing. It's got that very much idea of life in general. Not like soul, like a human life, if we're going to consider it like a separate thing, but a life. Just in the very simplest way. And it's used in the Bible 503 times. There are the occurrences. So that is and soul also comes up quite a bit also, nephesh. But there we go. Because sometimes they translate nephesh, life. In fact, let the waters bring forth the moving creature that hath life. In Genesis, you'd think it would be Chei, because that makes a lot more sense to me. But it's nephesh. And it's a little bit weird. Because the word soul also has broader application. Because it's not just a human soul. So why they choose that one over the other is a little bit. Soul is more personal. Soul is like, I think that's more of like an individual. If you're talking about a person, if you're talking about a fish, not so much, because that's what it was talking about in Genesis. Fish, they have soul. They have life. The moving creature that hath nephesh. Right? Am I getting that wrong? Let me make sure I'm not getting that wrong, because boy, I'd hate to just get that wrong. Let's go to Genesis. I'm going to just bring it up full screen for you, because when I make a statement like that, I'm like, yeah, I'm saying that pretty confidently, Paul. Are you sure? And though it would be it's always embarrassing to find out I'm wrong right here on the Bible study. Which happens, you've all seen it happen, right? I find out I'm wrong occasionally, and not infrequently either, but it's worth it, because it's like, I don't want to leave it hanging there. I'd rather be, I don't want to be secretly wrong, but I'm not acknowledging it. I think that's like the worst thing about a teacher that you can have is like the guy, it's like he's wrong and he ought to know it, but he just doesn't. But he's wrong because you checked, but he never acknowledges it because he didn't bother. Okay. This firmament. No, I want the creatures, fish and birds. Let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature. Sheretz that hath life, and the word life is Chei. I was wrong. Chei. Okay, never mind. Where was the soul, though? With the moving creature? Why did I think there was something about here that was with... Why did I think there was a word nefesh here? The living creature? Creature? Oh, there it is. Okay, well, this makes more sense. Okay, the moving creature, sheretz, abundantly, sheretz. Okay, that hath life, hey. Okay. The creature that moveth, great whales, which the waters bring forth abundantly. Okay, there's no mention of that there. Okay, so it should have, I don't know how I ever got that impression, but here, when it says the living creature, that says hey, creature. That word is nefesh in Hebrew, creature. And that is cattle and creeper. It's not human beings. So on that front, I'm right. It's used of things other than human beings. But it wasn't used of fish. Why did I think it was used of fish? Is there some point in the Bible where nefesh is used of fish? Or of something alive in the water? I don't know. I guess I got the wrong idea. Well, now we both know I was wrong. So there, we don't have to have that uncomfortable thing where you know I'm wrong, but I don't. Now it's all good. So let's go back to our study. Okay. So, though, with that slight detour, we learned a little something. I was reminded of something that I must have mislearned it somehow. I'm not going to investigate that here on the study, but I got to go into my companion Bible and look at the notes I have there. Because I can see a page somewhere, and I'm like, there's something there's something, I guess I feel like I misremembered. I don't often misremember, but, hey, I misremembered. No, but that impression is not just like a sudden one. It's like I thought I've had that impression for a long time. All right. There we go. Okay. So my life, my life, just the same thing I share with fishes, right? They got it too. Not the souls. And in fact, some people call the animals the soulish animals, like the cows and the monkeys. And obviously we do look at mammals differently than we do at things like fish. Like if I told you a fish didn't have a soul, you'd probably agree. That's why I always thought it was weird that it was used of fish at some point. And, in fact, I should have done, and I did do this. I just brought it up. Now here, I can find out right away if I misremembered, and I want to find out. I apologize, but I'm going to find out. Did I really misremember that? Because and I can find out really fast, and there's how. It would just be listed in the ways it's translated. So if I ever got close to anything like that, come on, scroll down. There we go. There we go. And the strong. Oh, look, yeah. Look at it. See, nefesh, properly a breathing creature, an animal of abstractly vital, used widely in a common and figurative sense, but these are all the ways it's translated, including things like soul and fish. All right, ghost. It's like there's a lot of ways it's even used of lust as of the breathing, like soul, or I don't know, I'm going to swallow your soul or something. I don't know, but you can see the great variety of ways it gets translated. So I didn't completely misremember. I just misremembered the place where it gets translated fish. So I wasn't absolutely off my rocker. That's right. Because I for a moment there, I thought, oh, I'm crazy. I've just totally lost the plot here. Okay. Preserve my life from... That's an odd thing to say. Preserve my life from fear of the enemy. That my life would be in jeopardy, in need of preservation, just because I'm afraid. And that's because fear itself, like the politician said, Roosevelt, there's nothing to fear but fear itself. That and tyranny, like the poster says. Oh yeah, that and tyranny. But anyways, fear, you shouldn't fear fear either. So, but I get the point. You want to avoid fear. Because fear, in certain contexts, fear is an excellent thing. It provokes certain things. It makes you do certain things. It makes you behave irrationally. But like if you need to suddenly jump out of the way of an oncoming train, fear is an excellent tool. It will suddenly give you this rush of adrenaline, and you will burst into action. Hopefully you don't have a freeze response. Some people freeze. You know, if you've ever been, I've been in a couple of harrowing situations, and I've discovered I don't freeze, which is good. When I was young, I froze. I think it was because I was young. I was once in a situation where I froze, and I remember freezing when I was young, and I realized it's almost like a brain maturity thing. As the human person becomes an adult, your brain chemistry changes, and this is actually true. Because a child, like the response of a young animal is often that freeze response, where an adult does a flee response. But since we're not prey species, an adult male should develop a confront response or a spring into action response. And a healthy male actually has some pretty amazing reflexes and speed. Things you can do speed wise. So anyway, but you don't want to just be living in fear of the enemy. Fear that is over time, that is not just being used for an instant spring into action, kind of like start my engine, man. There's scary things afoot. When it's not being used for that purpose, where you're just constantly worked up by things, constantly anxious, constantly afraid. That's not good. It's stressful to your body, and it's deleterious to your life, to the vitality of your life. When you're living in fear, like, what is the enemy going to do? And because when you expose yourself, because as a leader, David exposed himself to enemies, as you do, I've had enemies. I know what that's like. I haven't feared them mostly because they gave me no cause. At times I've thought about it, but I just trust the Lord. And people have even told me, I've had people email me, don't say you trust God. I'm like, well, here's the thing. I know that no matter what, someone who's dedicated at taking me down, there's nothing that can stop them except God. I mean, if someone really is dedicated to the purpose of my destruction, there's not a lot I can do. Especially if they're going about it in secret. I mean, what are you going to do about that? You can live in fear of it. Sure, that's one. You can live in paranoia and fear of what the enemy is going to do. And from their secret counsel, especially because as a leader, you're in public. You're in view all the time. If you know what it feels like to be in view all the time, you understand what this psalm is talking about. The wicked have their secret counsel, and you must rely on God to hide you from that. There's nothing that can be done on earth we can't guard against every enemy. You become, people do, and they live in paranoia and fear. Constantly on guard, constantly in fear. It's interesting. From the insurrection of the workers of iniquity. I want to know what that word is in Hebrew, because, tell me. It's rumbling. And this is a very sensitive mic. I guess it picks up all that stuff. So I'm glad my sciences have cleared up, as everyone probably has noticed. That those days of me babbling with my... those days are gone for now. I say it's like when I'm also sick, it's not helpful. All right. I'm going to bring it over there so we can all go together. I don't really have to cough. I just feel, what it is? It's because I am over a cold. I'm left with that sort of dry cough, and it wants to cough, but it's not productive. I just feel like, oh yeah, you kind of would like to cough up whatever's hanging on. It's like, wait, it'll get bigger, and then it'll come. All right. Insurrection. It's behind my head. All right. Here we go. Regesh. It is a throng. Okay. A tumultuous crowd, and it's translated company or insurrection. Rigsha from Regesh. Okay, whatever. Not used very often. Yeah, but interestingly, the other use is in Psalm 55, which we've done. And there was a very different usage. Like in Psalm 55:14, let's just go to it with our text. That's one. 55:14. Yeah, we took sweet counsel together, walked into the house of God in insurrection. See, again, that doesn't really work out. So it doesn't specifically mean insurrection. See, by just having the word used twice, we know, though it probably means that in some contexts. Certainly in this context that we're talking about, obviously, this throng, this company is ill-intentioned and therefore to be considered sort of like lawless, right? That's the way we're interpreting that. But that's a bit of an interpretation. You know what I mean? Like even in the King James, to say insurrection of the workers of iniquity. I do think it's more of like, well, I don't know. Is it being used differently? That's a question. See, that's where something like this Brown Driver Briggs type thing comes in, because it could perhaps clue us in. I shouldn't ignore it. I generally, I don't always. Noun. So in one case, it's masculine. It's throng, and then in the other one, it's feminine. It's in a different form. As you can see right here. Here's the Hebrew word right there. And that's the form in Psalm 55. And here's the form in Psalm 64. Where it's different. It's construct. So of worshipers compare some reading. So in Psalm 64, there's a similar word. It's got extra letters. Or is it plural or something? Psalm 64:28. I don't know. If this helps, I'm just curious, I guess. Where is it? Where is it? Has commanded. Well, I forgot what it looked like. Okay, what did it look like? All right, it starts with an R, right? RGSH. RGSH. And it's supposed to, wait, the one we're looking for is RGS, I forgot what that one is, like THM, something like that. Little box at the end. All right, RG. But I'm looking for RG. Now, I didn't see any RGs as I recall. I'm going to give up in about a second. Yeah, I don't see any RGs in this. This is a dead end. I don't know what this is talking about. Compare readings. And what this is all about, don't even get me started. All right, never mind. I'm in over my head. I don't, there's only so much, man. That's just, all right. The reason I hide their ads is because I don't want them to get, they need to pay Bible Hub. You need to go there yourself and look at those ads. I'm sure that would be preferable. Okay. Back to the text. Secret counsel of the wicked from the throng of the workers of iniquity. But it's feminine, so it may be feminine that implies evil. I have to say that. All right, but it may be, maybe the feminine version of that has some. It didn't say so in the lexicon, so I'm not particularly going to stand on that. I'm just saying, okay, whatever. It's a different company. All right, hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, from the insurrection of the wicked. The workers of iniquity, they band together. That's why I would look at that. They band together. They take counsel in secret. Again, they whet their tongue like a sword and bend their bows to shoot their arrows, even bitter words. They take counsel because, again, when people act in concert with their words, they can really get at you, especially publicly. If you get several people to come forward at the same time with the same story or the same accusation, it can be powerful in the midst of a crowd. And a lot of politics in the old days was done like that, getting the group who was deciding things together, or, among people to get them on your side. Especially when there's a dispute, especially when you're trying to take someone down. They whet their tongue like a sword, bend their bows to shoot their arrows, even bitter words. And so I say, throughout the Bible, it is taught that words are a means of doing violence. A kind of violence. It's not equivalent, obviously. Just like I said, look, the Bible also teaches us that lusting after a woman by looking at her is also a sin akin to adultery. Though obviously not the same in magnitude, but in the ultimate sense, it still renders you worthy for the lake of fire. And there's a sense that says in the end, it's like you end up the same, and it's for the same reason. You're a sinner. And there's nothing... And this is not much different. That words also. It's like they say sticks and stones can break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Oh, yes, they can. What are you talking about? Now, names will never hurt you. Like people just name calling and stuff. That don't do nothing. Okay. Racist, or whatever. I think it's funny because as a Christian teacher, I've been accused of basically, building my entire ministry on the whole going against Arnold Murray. And one of the things I very notably go against him on is the whole Anglo-Israelism and the white identity teaching. I don't believe in that. I explicitly reject it. I specifically endorse the form of Christianity that the apostles and that Jesus gave us, which is said that there's no difference between Jew and Greek, male and female, spiritually. And I know there are differences between people, even races. Obviously, you can see the external differences. But the differences between us are much smaller than the similarities. The similarities between human beings are much, much more, so that if a man is a Christian, to me, he's closer than a brother who is not, and no matter of his race. That's why I can't... I could never abide that kind of teaching, and I don't tolerate it now. It's like when people start talking to me that stuff, I consider it rot. Though I consider myself pretty insensitive, and I like it. But I don't want to get in any trouble. Oh no, don't want to get in trouble. But they want to now, because here's the thing. As I look at this also, I think in myself also, I do the same thing against my enemies. I whet my tongue like a sword. I bend my bow to shoot my arrows. Righteous words, true words, hopefully. Polish the arrows up. Get the shaft ready. Make sure they're straight. Fire them out. The words are a weapon. It's not, you can't regard it the same. You can't treat someone who's talking like you treat someone who has a gun, obviously. And it's preferable we fight with words. That's why we gave men freedom of speech knowing that words are violence. That's all this nonsense about hate speech. It's like hate speech is just speech you hate. That's all it is. It's just, I don't like what you're saying. That's all that it has. Hate speech, no, go to, where. Why? I'm not going to say go to hell. I say that all the time. As far as that goes, yeah. Go to hell as far as you say hate speech and all that. Yeah, well, whatever. Hate speech. The government's no business. Maybe it is hate speech. Maybe someone is whetting their tongue like a sword unjustly and trying to take you down unrighteously. That's wicked. But on some level, when people are shooting at you in secret, they're talking amongst themselves. Oh, do you know about, and how can we do them in? How can we undermine them? How can we ruin their lives? They prepare. They're always getting ready to shoot their words at you. I'm doing the same thing. I want to know, how can I pierce the wicked with my words? Pierce their hearts, that they could perhaps be wounded and that the Lord would heal them. Because if the truth has no purchase, if it cannot penetrate their armor of evil, because that's almost like what they've got. And we have a breastplate of righteousness. They have a breastplate of sin. And it protects them from all the righteous words. It's every bit as powerful in its own way, its own right. Well, it's effective. Because unless God grants us because the word is not effectual in the ears of all that hear it. I'm just talking about armor and stuff. That's nonsense. There is no Satan's armor, really. I'm just sort of saying. But they are it's as if they are armed against it. It's like there's so much people will do. I have a line in a song I'm working on. It's called "Do You Believe in Science?" And that's when I really need to finish that one. But it requires some very, the words have to be done just right. But there's one line I wanted to put in there, that they would gladly turn us all into slaves just to hide their sins, just so they don't have to answer for their wickedness, their own iniquity, their own perversity. That's how men are. That's how the people in charge are. That is the reason why they push these agendas to teach children things that children don't need to learn about. Like children don't need to, like small children don't need to, I always teach on a need to know basis. Well, here's the thing though. Parents, I've said this, if you send your children to school at all, public schools, private schools, if you're not home educating them or homeschooling, it's like, you can't really homeschool unless you have as many children as I do. But even then, I still don't really think of it as homeschool. I think it's home education. Same thing. It's just a semantic distinction. It's like people who don't want to say like they're a Christian or something like that, but they want to say I'm a disciple or something. Like that's what the enemies call them. It's like whatever. Don't get too caught up. Never get too caught up in what you call yourself. That's always like a. I find one saith I am of Peter, one saith I am of Paul. It's always just with the who are you and your identity and all that. Just get off yourself. That's what all that is about. It's just like you want identity, group, and all that. It's like we're all trying to find the Lord. We're all trying to follow Jesus, right? Sometimes it's just a bit much. They whet their tongue like a sword, bend their bows to shoot their arrows, even bitter words that they may shoot in secret at the perfect. They always like to shoot in secret. They don't like to, no one likes to get their hands dirty or have anyone see their hands getting dirty, right? No one wants them to see their dirty hands. So they shoot in secret. Suddenly do they shoot at him and fear not. They encourage themselves in an evil manner. People don't fear because they don't fear God. They don't fear detection because they don't think that anyone sees. And of course, God does see. And like I say, if someone wants to plan in secret and shoot in secret at me, I'm going to be dead. All they have to do is watch me for a while, figure out the patterns of my movement, choose an opportune time when they think it's good. I'm sure there's lots of places where I could be hit that would be easy to get away and not even get caught. It's just the truth about any human being. Unless you're a president or you got a security detail. And even them, if there's someone dedicated to the purpose of doing them in, and it's hard to stop that. There's someone truly dedicated to that purpose. You need resources like the president has. Just a security ain't gonna do it. To people, it'll prevent someone from just coming up and harassing you. Yeah, that's good for that, for just random harassment and stuff. But for someone who's like plotting and stuff, it's like, yeah, you got no defense. No one does. Like I said, no average person. You can put up some sort of defense. But like I said, if someone has all things being equal though, equal resources on both sides. A billionaire versus billionaire, can the one dedicated to the purpose of destroying the other? Well, whatever. I don't care because it's like I trust the Lord. So that's my defense. It's like, I don't be stupid. Here's the thing. You don't try to, I don't try to provoke assassins. You know what I mean? And David doesn't think he's doing that either. They're shooting secret at the perfect. Perfect probably means something. Let's see what the word is. I'm not going to bring the whole thing. It means complete. That's what I was going to say. But of course, that is what perfect means. People are always like, it means complete. It's like, yeah, perfect. I know they're synonymous. Complete means perfect. You know what I mean? Like when people say, "Oh, I can't be perfect as a Christian," but they can be complete and not be perfect. Can you be complete as a Christian and not be perfect? Well, you say, "Well, I'm complete in Him." Well, I'm perfect in Him too. In that sense, sure. But I mean, are you complete? Are you done? I mean, are you truly externally complete? Well, I've still got things to work on. I got things to, okay, and perfect? No, neither that. No, also, it's in the Spirit. Sure, in the Spirit, the Lord makes us perfect by His perfect sacrifice and by His laying His life down on the cross. We are perfect, and it is imputed to us, and that is good as gold as far as your judgment with God. But now, having received it, let us go on. But people, in secret to perfect is a relative term. Like I always say, perfect, what it means is in this context, where they're shooting at someone and there's no reason for it. There's no direct causal, like because you killed my brother, or because you laid heavy taxes on us, or because you're responsible for all the pain in my life, or anything like that. They're shooting at someone for whom the only, a lot of times they hate you for your virtues. In fact, that's it's interesting to me that billionaires are most criticized for being billionaires, as if that was the problem. I mean, just the fact that they have money there's something wrong with that. Just that of itself. I guess it's assumed that there's some sort of like something sketchy about the way they got it. If that's the case, in some cases, I suppose some people it is a bit sketch how they got their money, right? But many of them, it's like, well, they just had a great idea and worked often ruthlessly to dominate their competition. And so sometimes, yeah, you do on the way up, you make a lot of enemies, yeah. But it's like, that's not what I hear. I don't hear like, oh, on the way to their billions, they just crushed people. I don't hear that. Like, for example, the Amazon guy, I hear him criticized all the time. But most of the time, it's like, he got us stuff delivered in like a day. Like anything. A couple days, whatever. And, it's like, and delivered free. Postage and handling used to be the biggest thing ever. It was like $5, $20 postage and handling. It was like all the time, and all of a sudden, like, whatever happened to postage and handling? Whatever happened to postage and handling? Like, whatever. They figured that one out. They figured out somehow to just like, well, and sometimes there is packaging, obviously, but I'm just saying, like, most of the things that, when you think of the things that the billionaires have done, well, they've brought a lot of good things to people. But the main criticism of them is that they have billions. But what it should be is like, well, what do they do with it? And are they, because a lot of billionaires are going around trying to reorder the economics of the world. They're talking about how they ought to be. If one was to reorder the world economic system, how ought one to reorder it? And that's what they do. I'm afraid, they talk about these things when they gather around. Some of them. I'm thinking of like those, the people who meet together, the World Economic Forum. They discuss world economics and like what they should be. They want to direct it. And ostensibly, they think they're doing good. All those guys think they're doing something good for everybody. Because they think they know what's best. They should be in charge. They should tell everyone what to do. And that's just insane wrong. But hey, that's what happens. You get a huge ego when you make that much money. That's part of the problem. But it's not the money itself that's bad. It's not being a king that's bad. You know what I mean? Like David was a king. David was a rising star. There was in different points of his life. I'm not sure exactly when he was talking about. Was he a king? Was it when he was on his way up? You know, because when you're on your way up, there are going to be people who hate you. You know, you go into a situation, like if you get a job and you're just really good at whatever you do, and you just start exceeding people who've been working there a while. Well, I remember, you know, or you go to a church and you have a lot of knowledge and it exceeds that of some of the people there who've been there for a long time and maybe are older. Or it's comparative to, but they don't want to respect it. And not that I'm demanding respect, but the disrespect is not welcomed. You know what I mean? It's not that I command respect, it's the disrespect. I can handle neutrality. You know, neutrality is, I think, appropriate, the appropriate attitude to have towards a newcomer. I'm neutral. I'm just discovering who they are. I'm not judging them and trying to figure out if I'm better than them or if they think they're better than me or might think. People get into all these weird social competitive things, and it makes people bitter sometimes when people do well at things. You know, remember the story of Nancy Kerrigan and the other girl? Funny thing, I forgot the name. Nancy Kerrigan was the girl who got kneecapped. It's better to mention her than the other one. I remembered her name, Tanya. And she was the one who paid the thugs to go hit her leg, you know, to hit her in the shin, which is friggin', that's harsh, man. You know, to kneecap somebody, that's painful. You know, it's like, and they make fun of her crying about it, but it's like, man, someone whacks you in your knee, tries to injure it, all right? Or the shin. I've been hitting the shin a few times, and it's pretty painful. Actually, I've been hitting the shin so many times, my bones are like the surface of granite. It's all jagged and stuff. But like, you think about it, she's coming off the ice, right? And the two thugs are just sitting there waiting to hit her in the kneecap out of nowhere. Why? Well, because she was going to be the one who qualified for the Olympics. She was better. So she had to be kneecapped so the other girl could have her way. And that's kind of shooting at secret at the perfect. Not that she was actually perfect, but she's the one who's better than you. You know? Foolishly. Without thinking like, oh, I'll just get to be the star now. And doing something so wicked. They encourage themselves in an evil manner. That's a really good example of like that kind of a thing, to tell you the truth. Right? That story is a very good example of exactly what David's talking about. Suddenly do they shoot at him and fear not. They encourage themselves in an evil matter. You know, they can commune of laying snares privily. They say, who shall see them? Neither the person, you know, they set these secret snares, I think, neither the trapped one nor one who might remove the trap. You know, no one will see. I do like when it says they commune of laying snares privily. I like that King James talk, whatever. They take counsel, whatever that means. I don't need to look that up. We already looked up too many words. It was, I think, necessary and actually very interesting. They search out iniquities. They accomplish a diligent search. And they're always looking for iniquities. Both the inward thought of every one of them and their heart is deep. I wonder what it means. I do think, you know, one, I don't know. Well, when they lay snares, if we're still talking words, which we may be, you know, Jesus was often confronted with the Pharisees trying to catch him in his words. You know, they would lay traps for him. Like when they came to him saying, should we pay taxes to Caesar or not? That was a snare. It was a verbal snare. They wanted to get him to say something that would be that could be used to accuse him to the either to the Romans or to discredit him with the people, because the people hated paying taxes. The people hated paying taxes, and you know, and they thought maybe they could get him into trouble with the Romans if he started saying that they shouldn't pay taxes, because the Romans aren't going to like that. But so the thing is though, I like in the movie The Miracle Worker. It was the stop motion version of the story of Jesus, and they had Pilate say, "Oh, so he shares your opinion." Like me. None of the Jews liked paying taxes. So like saying somebody said we shouldn't pay taxes to the Romans is like saying somebody said the sky is blue today. I mean, it's just really not a particularly, I thought that was an interesting line to add. It's not historical or scriptural, but it captures the spirit of like that, the funniness of that kind of, that trap. But they were still trying to trap him. They were trying to snare him with his words. Is it lawful? They would often come up with him, with, I'm trying to think of the other one, a couple other ones, but one example will suffice. But because I want to go on to, they lay snares. They want to catch you in your words, make you say something you shouldn't say. They search out iniquities. I mean, they make a diligent search. I thought first that it should be interpreted like they investigate iniquities so that they can do iniquity in that sense. But I do think my second thought might be the more appropriate one, meaning they look, when they're setting snares, they're trying to catch me in something to like accuse me of sin. Like Jesus said, which of you convinceth me of sin? Which of you is going to accuse me of having done something wrong? And if I speak the truth, why do you not believe me? So that, in Jesus, they were trying desperately to find fault with him, to find iniquity in him. And they have very deep thoughts about it. They're both, the inward thought of them and the heart is deep. The inward thought and also the heart. Because, what's interesting? It's funny that people say this about the human body. Oh, you don't have a heart. Like that, not really. Your heart doesn't actually think. Remember, yes, I was talking and I didn't quite get it right, because then it occurred to me, I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. About the two halves of the brain, right? They're separated. If they're separated, you can block off, like they do this blinder experiment where they block off so that the only right side can see one thing and only the left side can see. So on one side, you have this side of the brain controls this arm and sees out of this eye. And this side of the brain controls the right arm and sees out of the right eye. And so they'll show to the right hand and right eye side a picture of like, they'll show it nothing. They'll show the right side, which is the right brain, which controls the other side of the body and sees out of the other eye. So they'll show the left eye. They show the left eye on the screen. They say, they show a picture of a Rubik's Cube, right? And the right eye can't see anything. There's nothing over here. So the left brain, which controls speech, if I've got that right, will say nothing. Because it doesn't see anything. It can't see anything because it can't, literally, the right brain sees out of the left eye. And so the left brain cannot see out of the right eye. So when the right eye is looking at that Rubik's Cube, the left brain can't see it. But the right brain, or the left half of the brain, which sees out of the right eye, the right side of the brain, which sees out of the left side of the eye, does see that Rubik's Cube. It sees it. This is much more helpful with a graphic. It sees the Rubik's Cube, and it will if there's a bunch of objects there, it will pick up the Rubik's Cube and show that that's what it sees, while the mouth is saying nothing. You see what I'm saying? Like the mouth will be saying it sees nothing, because that side of the brain sees nothing, and the other side of the brain will pick up a Rubik's Cube and wave it around. And there's a lot of other weird phenomena where the left brain will, like when you hide things with the right brain, it'll say stuff, and then it's like there's another person there. It's really weird. But here's the thing: it's my heart and my soul. It's my thoughts and my heart. You know, the Bible always says there's a deeper self. There's always another self. There's a heart. You know, there is more to man than just that surface level. They think there's just one mind. It's like, no, there's more in you than just your brain. I mean, like the one brain. You have more than one set of thoughts running around in your head. That's why sometimes people are at two purposes. That's why some people are often confused, because you are at two purposes often. Now, they communicate across that barrier between, so that's why normally you don't have that problem, because my left and right brain are acting together, and they know they can communicate with each other. So the left, you know, the side that can't talk can talk to the one that does, and they can do the talking for him, which is exactly how it works. But like just that fact that there can be separation is mind blowing to me. It says that these organs are different. I mean, you're acting because it's the same person, but yet the organs are being used differently. You know what I mean? Like that fascinates me. Because they're not really two persons. They're still one person, but they're using their organs separately, as even the brain. Because you are not the sum of your parts. Like I said before, you are not your brain. Your brain is just something you use. And you actually get two of them. And they work. You have dual. It's like dual overhead cams and stuff. We build everything in that same way, where it's doubled. 2 hands, 2 eyes. You got right and left set of teeth. You know. I mean, each tooth has a companion, right? 2 bicuspids, 2 incisors. Actually, you have more of those if you look at it from the perspective of all 4. Okay. But God shall shoot at them with an arrow. Suddenly shall they be wounded. God suddenly fires out his arrows. They want to find out what's wrong with us. They want to do us in and do us harm. And ultimately, whether by, Jesus was crucified over false accusations, So, there you go. Mostly he was crucified just because they wanted him crucified so bad, And that's it. Because eventually they give the mob what it wants, especially if he can see no cost. It's just some peasant carpenter guy or whatever. Not particularly important person they're trying to kill here. And they seem to be so adamant that they want him killed. But then, his wife is telling him to have nothing to do with it, and it's becoming a big deal. Because it's not just a peasant, it's like he's a messiah or something. But then on some level, the pragmatism is what, he tried to wash his hands of it, but he still killed him. He didn't want to get that far from it. I mean, he still made sure that it was done. All right. God shall shoot them with an arrow. Suddenly shall they be wounded. So shall they make their own tongue to fall upon themselves. Like a sword fall on their own sword, they fall on their own tongues. And that often happens. It's like when people lay snares and use lies to destroy you, oftentimes that can be turned against them in the end. Like you get caught up in your own web of lies, and suddenly it's you who's lost the reputation. These people, they participate in cancel culture. They participate in running people's lives down, or any of this woke nonsense. And you start apologizing for anything, you're doomed. You never bow to some other god. That's why I would look at it as like I don't bow to other gods. It's like, no, there's no difference between black and white people because of Jesus. And so I will not accept the notion that there's like like black this or black. It's like, get out, stop it. And there's white this and white that, white culture and white. It's like everything. It's like everything is all this like color conscious nonsense, and it's the opposite of what I learned in the New Testament. Is to be not conscious of things like color and race and ethnicity. And even when it comes to like the value of a human being before God, even gender. I mean, in life, you're not blind to male and female. That women need special consideration because they're weaker physically and all that. So they need special spaces and all that. Whereas whatever. But when people go about trying to destroy people, when they make it that their business, they're very most likely to fall in their own snare. And this is a principle the Bible talks about over and over again. In the book of Revelation, it's one of those. It's not mysterious at all. I used to think it was mysterious, but if you have ears to hear, it's not mysterious at all. He that hath ears to hear, let him hear. If any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here's the patience and faith of the saints, and it's very often his own sword. Because as it is written, your own conscience testifies. No, it's not written exactly like that, but basically, the scriptures indicate that our own conscience is a testimony against us. Meaning the fact that they're secretly laying snares. They know what they're doing. Secretly telling lies. Secretly plotting destruction. Secretly plotting all kinds of evil. And they looking for fault with you and all that. And at the same time, themselves full of corruption and wickedness. Oh no. They will fall on their own swords. They will fall into the snare they laid for others. The snare they laid for others, they shall become the prey. That's what the scriptures say over and over again. That's what the wicked find, ultimately. They fall into the same snare. And all men shall fear and shall declare the work of God, for they shall wisely consider of his doing. Yeah, that was what I thought. They shall wisely consider of his doing. Not a great sentence. But they shall wisely contemplate his doings. Oh, I don't know. I don't think we should check the translation of that particularly. Because for they shall wisely consider his works, whatever. Deed work. Yeah, whatever. It means consider his works. They shall consider his works. All right, all men shall fear. Well, when men see the wicked fall, it's because the wicked get away with things that men don't fear God. Now, we don't want to be afraid of the enemy. People are often afraid of the enemy. They're afraid of the wicked and what they might do. They're afraid of the mob. It was called, I'll tell you what, a good translation of insurrection here might be mob. From the mob of the workers of iniquity. Because that's a little better term. Because mob has a bit of a negative connotation, but not quite so specific as insurrection. Because, we have this insurrection and January 6th thing. Though I had already written a song called Crush the Insurrection, Drumpf, sometime during the George Floyd riots, actually. And it was based on Alan Keyes. I was watching him on a video at my brother's place, and he starts pounding the table. He's like, "Crush this insurrection, Trump!" And the line I thought it was just so funny, crush the insurrection. But because of the dual meaning of things, like, crush it, dude, like that kind of, that's part of what I thought. The idea is like, crush the insurrection. Crush it. And so anyways, so I don't like using that word lightly. Or incorrectly, I should say. Lightly, I do use it lightly. But it means something. It implies an attempt to overthrow government. And I get it. If David was king, that might be what this is talking about. They'll be fine now. The righteous shall be glad in the Lord and shall trust in him, and all the upright in house shall glory, to the chief musician. Yeah, when we see God's work, when he completes his work, when we see the wicked, they lay their snares, but the righteous prevail, then we know and fear God. But when we don't see it, we don't fear. Or men don't fear. I'm just talking of humanity generally. I believe because the Lord has already shown me that I can't get away with things. And so I trust that the rest of the wicked will also not get away with things. That's why I've chosen to reconcile myself with God. On hearing the gospel, well, I've always believed in Jesus, but but when I realized I was going astray in my young years, I turned to the Lord because I recognized that, God is righteous, and there is something being demanded of us here, or existence demands a response. I can't just go through the motions and live a life of void of curiosity and void of exploring and seeking after God. Anyway, we have to me, that's essential. They shall wisely consider of his doing. We need to use wisdom and really consider what God does. Our own conscience is also a weapon against us. Because that's what I said. You fall on your own thoughts, on your own words, on your own machinations and schemes. The snare that the wicked lay, they're caught up in it. If I have whenever I have stepped into those areas of wickedness that most of my, I think about it is I've sinned against a few people. Mostly people I know or who are close to me, who I love, and I've been reconciled with them. But for the most part, sins are against God. Against thee, the only have I sinned. As a Christian especially, because thee and the only is the only one I've offended. In some ways. Because a lot of things that go on in your heart, and then, the things that go on, a lot of people's sin is in secret. That's why we have to at least confess and acknowledge it openly to God. And it doesn't hurt to acknowledge it before brethren. In some way. It can be, I don't think you don't have to be super specific and list every sin you ever did. But I'll tell you what, when I did and came close to that, it was very refreshing to do, in the right company, Even in the wrong company, it doesn't matter, man. Just don't fear men. Because, of course, they'll speak evil of you. And they'll try to bring you down. Maybe even in church, but you can't fear men. And I'm not saying, like I said, I'm not saying go thou and do what I'm saying. I'm just saying these are things to consider. We got to consider God's work and what he's doing. We will be glad when we are focused on what God is doing in the Lord, and when we trust in him, because then we don't live with fear of what the enemy is doing. It's like, so I tell people, it's like, I serve God. Therefore, if that's true, then I should have utter confidence. No one can touch me until God wants me to die. I should fear none of the enemies. I don't behave foolishly and put myself in danger. I'm not quite at the level of Stonewall Jackson, going out into battle on horseback while the bullets are flying without a regard for any of my safety. I would expect to just get shot because though I know he's right, nothing can hurt me but the thing is, I don't stand in a hail of bullets and say that. It's kind of cockeyed. Come on. It's like throwing yourself off the temple. I know God's going to protect me, but I don't do that either. But what I'm saying is, from the secret machinations of the enemy and stuff, they can't touch me if God doesn't want them to touch me. He won't protect me from being he might, here's the thing. God has protected me from being a complete idiot. He saved me from my own stupidity on a number of occasions. I'm my own worst enemy in many ways, and God has always looked after me, and I try not to take that for granted. I don't take it for granted, but it's like, I've always thought I am destined to die from misadventure because of just, because of the way my brain works. Just sometimes I miss things, because I get really focused on one thing or the other, deep in thought. Miss an important detail. Lord help me. And I've a couple times things like that have happened. I've narrowly escaped, and I've thought God is always looking out for me, man. And whatever. And I try. I don't want to. I try. I don't want to be foolish about it, but I do trust in it. I do trust it because I try to be careful, but I don't live in fear. You know what I mean? I wear my seatbelt. It's the law. I don't always. I say that, but I realize, I usually wear my seatbelt. If there's a buzzer, I definitely wear it. Or even when there isn't, I do, especially if I think I might be seen. What I'm saying is, I don't think it's necessary to throw yourself in harm's way to prove your faith. It's definitely not. Don't do that. Jesus already taught us, right? But don't be afraid of enemies. When people say I get out here and I start talking and speaking, and I write songs that I know are going to be. I have songs still coming up that are. There's a lot of them, right? And some of them I know are going to be offensive, and I might get canceled again. I might get kicked off YouTube, because of it. Who knows? Just because I don't know. I understand. All this time I've been teaching, I just assumed no. There is a transcribing. Okay, I saw that now. So all the words are there for most of this. I mean, some of them are way off. Maybe that's what's the problem. Maybe the transcribe process was. I should check that because I can say, what did they think I said? Yeah, on that specific study, because I was going by way of watching the video and I was like, I don't see what I did wrong. I just don't see it. I don't see any misinformation. I was talking about current news and I was speculating. We'll see what I don't know and like that. So I think that maybe some phrase I said got picked up as misinformation, but it wasn't misinformation. It was rumor. Is rumor misinformation? What it is you don't know, actually. And that's what I was saying. You saying you do know, that's a lie. It's a lie. Just like when they administer the vaccine to young children. We don't know what the results are going to be because there hasn't been clinical trials as far as I know. Now, is that untrue? Is that misinformation? I don't think so. I don't want to get in trouble, of course. So I don't know. But last I heard, I thought the trial was going to be just when we administer it to them for the most part. That was going to be the trial. The trial was going to be rolling it out to the public. And if that sounds, and the fact that you're not allowed to talk about it in public is really, really wrong and scary. Because that part gets me. It's like, I can ruin my whole Bible study by bringing that up. I can make it unavailable to the public by that. I can talk about all the other stuff I talk about and not that. They let me talk about all that other stuff. I didn't think I was community guidelines thing or anything, but whatever. I don't get it. But whatever. I know bad things can happen. They're going to cancel me, whatever. And there are times I thought hey, people can get worked up enough that they want to hurt you. I know that, people got worked up about Arnold Murray. They didn't want to kill me. They wanted me to feel threatened, though. They wanted to make me to feel like I was in danger. They wanted to make me feel fear. I know because they wrote me letters saying I should be careful and the blah, 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 and they're indicating that I was probably in danger for going against Arnold Murray. Hinting subtly, that kind of thing. It's like, thanks a lot, buddy. Trying to ruin my afternoon, make me feel afraid. But it just doesn't, because I trust the Lord mostly. And also, you'd have to really be dedicated to the purpose, because actually it is kind of hard to get at me. Not that hard. Like I said, if you're dedicated, it's not hard to assassinate an average person. Absolutely not. But if you're just just pull up on my property and try to get in a fist fight with me, that's kind of silly. That kind of thing. I'm not afraid of that because that's not going to happen. So it's like some angry person showing up at my property. Even carrying a gun, it's like, okay, That's a dangerous situation, but I'm not gonna live in fear of that, because Lord help me, the Lord help me, as He always does. Thanks for joining me this study. Sorry we went way over. We'll be back again on Monday. Psalm 65. Okay, how do I end the study? Okay, all right, here we go. Why do the